Hey everybody, you're back for part 2, right? So I've got it all lined up here for you, a massive compilation. Once again, it's probably morning, so good morning to a lot of you. But if you're new, hit that subscribe button, join the Awaken family, drop a like on this video too, because we want to try and get to 1,500 likes. You guys have been totally killing it recently, so thank you so much for that support. But let's not hesitate any longer. We've got a lot to get through. Let's go. Anyway, guys, I'm proud of you all for sticking to the end. Give yourselves one of these in the comment section. You know how it is. But with that being said, stay safe, stay well, and stay curious. Until next time.